You're a real pioneer in opening a space dedicated to the older population. And a lot of people were opening facilities targeting the younger, but you went against the grain.
Everyone trains for vanity, but for mature adults, they train for life. They train for functionality.
They're not fragile. So we have this stereotype and we go, all right, well, they're fragile. I'm gonna have to do all these considerations. I've seen your classes. They're moving hard. What gave you the courage to do so?
I think it was blind faith. I would much prefer to have a crack at something and for it to fail than to get to a stage of life and fear of why didn't I have a crack. One of the most prominent fitness business coaches in Australia that they didn't think it was going to work. And here's me, I've already put 80 to 100 grand in this.
And you're telling me this is
not going to work. I actually got the keys for my first location on the 1st of January 2020. So couldn't have scripted it any worse. But
you were a coach. You were day to day in the business. You were very much the technician, but you were also the business owner. Like a lot of fitness business owners, you were wearing a lot of hats. Now you got multiple locations. How have you had to evolve from being a coach to a multi-facility owner?
I think it's
Welcome to a special episode of Profit Made Simple. My name is Dan Henderson, and today we got a great guest. It is the one, the only Heath Jones from Active and Ageless. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, mate.
Fantastic to have you here. You and I have known each other for quite a while. I remember us meeting together before you even opened your first facility. You now got 4 opened.
Yeah.
And you're a real pioneer in opening a space dedicated to the older population.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were opening facilities targeting the younger, but you went against the grain.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do so?
Great question. I've been a trainer for around 20 years. A lot of that time that training was concurrent with my other careers, being in the military, being a registered nurse for many years. Working in the hospital, I used to kind of see the need for mature adults fitness. I'd see two people of the same age walking through the front door. One was quite capable, moved well, and the other one was, quite the opposite, quite deconditioned and, on a Zimmer frame or whatever. And I started really understanding the importance of fitness and strength training for older adults. I then became a trainer myself and started getting into that a little bit more and, knowing that there's gyms out there for kids and females only, and why isn't there anything for, mature adults, especially with that aging population. And knowing also that, everyone trains for vanity. We know that. But older adults or mature adults, they train for life. They train for functionality. And training for a better life and to live longer, but to live better. So, I'd had the idea in my head for probably the best part of 10 years, I think.
Wow. So it wasn't something you did on a whim. There was a lot of consideration.
No. And hopefully, there is a saying that the best businesses are the ones that have been in someone's head for 10 years. It's not like a spontaneous decision to open up a new business. So it's been there for a while in the mind. So always kind of thinking about it. And then, I suppose I decided to pull the trigger, but unfortunately it was at the worst time possible. Would have been around the time that I met you, not because of me.
Yeah. Completely separate, the big C word, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I actually got the keys for my first location on the 1st of January 2020. So
there we go.
Yeah, couldn't have scripted it any worse.
There was some lessons in that first site. We'll get to those in a moment because I know you've learned a lot along the way in the last 6+ years. But you had a really good career. You in the military, an RN, you're on the mine sites, you're obviously making good income. And then you decided to almost like risk it all for uncertainty. There was no guarantees. You're opening a gym or a space for older adults. It wasn't really a proven model at that point in time. Yeah. What gave you the courage to do so?
I want to give you some amazing answer right now, but I actually don't know. The courage, I think it was blind faith, to be honest, mate. And the funny thing is, and this is one of the reasons why we bonded straight away. I remember when I first met you, I kind of told you about my idea, and you kind of were all for it. Whereas I'd spoken to other people in the space that do the same as you, and they told me it wasn't possible. That demographic have too many health complications. That demographic, all they want to do is play tennis and golf and go walking and stuff like that. So here's me. I'd already kind of started the process of putting a lot of money into it, a lot of research. I probably even had my logos and a few other things by that stage, and then getting told by one of the most prominent fitness business coaches in Australia that they didn't think it was going to work. And here's me, very green.
Yeah.
Going, my God, I've already put 80 to 100 grand in this.
And you're telling me this is concept,
and it's not going to work. And then time went on, and it was COVID. But what kind of really led me into believing it, I think I must have had, some type of deep belief that it could work. And even if it didn't, I think one of my personal things is, if I have a dream, if I have a desire to do something, I want to do it. I never want to get to the age and stage of life and think about, I could have had a crack.
Yeah.
I would much, much, much prefer to have a crack at something and for it to fail than to get to a stage of life and it's that unknown, that fear of, why didn't I have a crack? So yeah, I just did it. And thankfully it's, apart from, the COVID and, just the challenging start we had, we finally got over that hurdle and, we're in a much happier and better place now.
Yeah, I love those insights. So I remember meeting you, and I was really passionate about the idea as well because I'd written my thesis. I'd done my honours degree on healthy aging and how there was this enormous gap at so many levels when it came to service provision. So I just simply knew from what was in place and the demographic data that there was a huge gap. So I'm glad you listened to me and not the other coach.
Yeah. That's why I'm here and not on his couch.
Which I love. And yeah, I think that's a really important insight for a lot of our listeners around regret, right? Is like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You know what? Worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You've got a career that you can go back to. It is money and time, but in the scheme of things, it's not enormous relative to not having a go.
Regret to me is a far bigger risk than losing money and time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the market itself because here you've got a prominent fitness business coach. He misunderstood the market.
Yeah.
What else is misunderstood about this market?
That they are more fragile than they, the people seem to believe that they're robust, they're resilient, they're super loyal. They, and once again, kind of, there's a lot of them that do, play golf and tennis and swim and stuff, which is great, but thankfully now a lot of the marketing is actually done for me because you see it in the media. There's different documentaries out there, the importance of strength training for people at any age, but especially for mature adults with women with, osteopenia and kind of those kind of complications or don't like to say the word disease, but conditions. But I think and it just the loyalty is to me that, there's plenty of gyms out there now, plenty of gym chains out there now, and just seems to be a new brand opens up every, few months. And, the younger demographic that train for aesthetics, all they want to do is go on to the next new shiny toy. Whereas our guys are sticky. We've had so many of them that have been with us from, those COVID times. So yeah, and they're a very under-resourced, misrepresented demographic. So, and
yeah, they've got the purchasing power to actually invest in their health. They're less transient as well, generally. So hence that's a part of the loyalty as well. So from a business model, it stacks up. We've got a demographic that has disposable income.
Yeah.
We have a demographic that's becoming increasingly aware of the importance of strength training.
Yep.
Like it's been phenomenal how much has come out in the last few years,
huge.
and it's only continuing to do so. And we also have a demographic that moves around a lot less. So the loyalty is massive from a business perspective. So you're not getting the churn that a lot of other businesses are getting. I really love the point that you made as well, that they're not fragile. So we have this stereotype and we go, all right, well, they're fragile. I'm going to have to do or have all these considerations where I've seen your classes. They're moving hard. They're moving with intensity.
I jump in sometimes and get a good workout.
So really important insights on that side. I want to talk about some of the lessons that you learned. In particular, again, you probably had some preconceptions on what they need, the space, the equipment, and location number one, Hurstville, looks very different in the design, the layout, the equipment, at least at that stage, to your subsequent locations.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the ahas you've learned, the lessons that you've learned now that you're up to 4 locations?
Yeah, there's been a few of those. So my initial first gym, Hurstville, was we had a lot of machines there, a lot of equipment. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew is that I wanted to open a gym for over 50s. That was pretty much it. So in that I had machines, I had self-directed programs where people could come in, they had an RFID card, they'd tap that on a monitor and be like, hey, Dan, this is your workout for the day. And it'd be like there's a bit of a path around. They'd jump on the leg press and they'd jump on this and they'd go and do a few abdominal exercises. And I used to have to update those programs every month. And I developed which I thought was a pretty cool matrix in terms of I'd assess these people. If they had a balance issue, if they had a lower body strength issue, they would get more of those exercises in their monthly program. When we got to about 50, 60 members,
That's a lot of work.
Got pretty challenging to manage that. So, but we also had gym only. People could rock up and do their own thing 100%. Then I started dabbling with classes, but I found classes initially I was quite hesitant because that demographic is very non-homogenous. Like I said before, you get 2 60-year-olds walking through the front door. One is physically capable, could probably go and do a BFT class or whatever, and then the other one is struggling to get out of bed in the morning. I had to put those 2 people in the same class.
Yeah, okay. So you're seeing this huge discrepancy in terms of ability.
Huge. Yeah. So we did develop classes, and one of the ways that I overcome that is we've got and it's getting even better, I think, is quite a stringent onboarding process where someone does a movement assessment, a series of exercises. We ask them quite a comprehensive background on their experience, their medical history and so forth. And then we've got different levels of classes that we can put them in. Then within the classes, I suppose our trainers, I've always selected trainers that are quite experienced themselves, and they're really good at offering alternative exercises or progressive exercises or regressive exercises to make it more difficult or more or either easier or just a completely different exercise if a person has a particular limitation or whatever. So we've had to get pretty good with that side of things, but also with the classes nowadays, everything's timing based. So just say you're on, we're doing squats. You would do it for 40 seconds as opposed to doing a certain amount of repetitions. So if you want to do 110 squats in 40 seconds, you can. If I do 2, doesn't matter. We finish at the same time. We don't, you don't feel better. I don't feel worse because we're finishing together. We're still high-fiving each other, kind of thing. So programming is really, really important on how you do it. Yeah. It's taken me years and years to refine it. And
well, it looks very different from that first iteration, right? So the first iteration was very highly personalized, very customized on these machines.
Yeah.
And then you've now evolved it. It's now a class-based model, but it's not a class-based model where everyone just does the same thing because you're really tailoring it for the different capacity that each member has. So they start with a movement assessment. That helps you identify a baseline.
Yep.
You have graded classes, so entry-level classes specifically for those that may not have done much or may have been rather sedentary for a long period of time. They actually, gain the movement patterns, develop the skills, the nervous system, the strength. And then within the classes themselves, you've got coaches with a great ability to regress progress based on what they need. So they're customizing it within that. So that's the movement side. And then the intensity side, it's time-based, and no doubt the coaches are advising, hey, look, I know where you're at. You should be aiming for this amount and this time versus the other person. So, what an evolution in terms of landing at the current programming model that you have now.
Yeah, and look, from the business perspective, I mean, what I spent for the...
It must make you cry sometimes.
I don't want to talk about it, but
let's get the man some therapy because I know that you invested in a big way on that equipment.
Huge. And then when we kind of decided, the classes started gaining traction, and I think one of the reasons why, as you know, it's the community focus, and about 50% of my people are retired. They've lost that kind of, that camaraderie that they would have had in the work environment. So they kind of start doing classes, and they're like, they're making friends and stuff like that. Classes started growing, but then we started having, clashes with people that were doing the gym only. And I'm like, I made the decision, and it was a very, it was a nerve-wracking time when I made the decision to close the gym only. I lost 2 members out of 150. So we went 100% class-based and haven't looked back. So from a staffing perspective, obviously a lot easier. Didn't have to have someone, lighthouse keeper there manning the station for the day. I eventually got rid of all the machines. I remember interviewing a lot of people. Why do you like the machines? I like to sit down between the sets. Well, I don't want you to sit down.
Yeah, that's not a reason
Nor
to
does your
keep
body.
it. Yeah.
So got rid of all the machines, and then and then the second location, the cost difference in setting up a second location compared to the first location was about 1/3 of the price. So
wow.
Yeah, even cheaper with the one that we just done now. So
okay, so that's one of the big lessons was actually how do we program, how do we deliver the service, and a couple of the things, the real principles that you now have is class-based. Let's make it community-centric. Let's have them connecting. Let's have them encouraging. Let's have some personalization to the classes. So whilst they're classes, there's definitely tailored to your ability and your capacity. You've got much more open space now than what you had.
It's a very fluid workspace.
Yeah. So there's some of the lessons on a programming side. What other major lessons have you had now that you've gone from your first to 4 locations? What mistakes did you make early on that you've now course corrected for your subsequent locations?
Yeah, just even around the marketing side of things, I think it's really important to show stories, show the progression, because there'd be anything up to 60 to 70% of our people have never done anything, or they may not have done anything in decades.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of say people that grew up in Australia, they may have done physical education at school, but some of them it's a long time ago. A lot of the internationals that we have, they didn't have that kind of same curriculum at their school wherever they emigrated from. So yeah, I think we always do like a trial, because no one wants to sign up for a membership when they don't know whether they are going to like it or whether they can do it or whatever. So we always bring someone in for.
What is that trial period? What have you found works?
We've experimented with quite a few. With the opening of the new one now, we're doing like a 5-class trial, which I quite often had a time period they'd do a trial, but I don't think a lot of people knew what what they were in for, kind of thing. But I think the 5-class trial has always worked really well. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. I get 5 classes over a period of 2 weeks. I can choose my classes with guidance from us. And then after that, we get pretty amazing conversions after that.
Okay, so there is a little bit of trepidation, hesitation, just because they've never been in this environment. So they don't know what they're getting themselves in for.
Yeah.
They realize the importance of exercise and movement and strength, but they don't know what that looks like, whether they're capable of it. So there's hesitation. You do something really easy for them just to take that next step.
Yeah.
Intro offer, 5 classes. How much do you charge for that on the $20, right? So it's $20. There's not much to lose on their side.
No.
And then the service and the experience itself sells them into a membership.
Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, I know a lot of other gyms, whether it's a class-based facility or a big box gym, their conversion happens on the phone. Ours happens
on the floor
that first 2 weeks.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why it's so important that we do it anyway, but I mean, that first 2 weeks they get, that really individualized care and training within a class-based facility. They get education. They get, that real softly approach of nurturing them through, because you even, had a booking classes on an app for some of them. It's
a big step, right?
Yeah, for some of them. Some of them are completely, IT savvy, like, us. Yeah. But some of them think the app stores in Westfield. So it's it can be a challenge, but like I said, it's when they get over that hump and they realize that we know what we do, we care about them, and we love what we do, and they're starting to kind of see that they, even within a couple of weeks, they already start to kind of feel a little bit looser. They're a bit more confident. They realize they can do it. They've been empowered to do it. They most of them stay.
Yeah. I want to talk about that because I've spoken to a few other service providers over the years, and they tell me things about the older market. They're like, Dan, you can't charge too much. Too many of them are on pensions, right? Oh, you can't do direct debits. They just love to pay cash. Oh no, we can't have them booking on apps because they're not technology savvy. So they make these absolute statements, and I believe they're false. So I'm obviously looking to challenge those. How would you combat some of those objections?
I think as we age, a lot of our, attributes amplify, whether you were good in something when you were younger, your discipline or your financial acumen, whatever, it's even better when you're older because you've had so many more years experience doing that. We've got some people, and you're right, there's some people that are really reliant on a pension, and we try to help out a lot of people, but the reality is we are quite a premium facility, and we target in the locations where our gyms they're not lower socioeconomic. I'd love to go to those places one day and offer cheaper memberships, but they are in quite nice areas. So I think the narrative around that demographic probably don't really know it. They're getting better.
Yeah.
With the kind of technology side of things, scanning QR codes and that they got really good at during COVID. So that's one good thing that come out of that. So most of them are pretty good with their phones. We show them, we have little videos and show them how to book in for their classes. Our managers and trainers show them how to do that. Anyway, they may need more care and nurturing through those processes. But we do, that's what we do. Our managers are really good with that kind of stuff. So it's, we don't just throw them in the sign up online and forget about them. They're not just a number. They are a person with individualized requirements and needs. So it's you got to be patient. And
you take that into consideration in their onboarding process. Hey, like we may need a little bit more education. We may need a little bit more hand holding. But we're going to create the systems and processes where that's all part of the client journey. So we make them feel confident, safe, accomplished.
And even some of our OG members, we can kind of just pair these people up and they love it. Especially if they're out of the workspace, we kind of say, hey, can you come over here and help this new person? You see them rise a foot and they're like, yeah, I'd love to. Take them through the class. No, you're in this station now, and you're doing this now. Roll your shoulders back. Whatever. Oh, you're going to show you how to book in for your class and your app and stuff. So we get by.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's challenging, but every business has challenges. Ours just is a little bit different to other businesses, really.
One of the things that you said earlier was we're in a vanity industry where a lot of people are after that change, the change, they want to build muscle, they want to lose fat, they want to look great in the mirror.
Yeah.
You're not selling that, are you?
Yes and no. I mean, everyone wants to look their best at any age, regardless of their age. But no, we train people for life, for functionality, for longevity, for healthy aging, all that good stuff. Still, but when we first started, like I was saying to you just before, we do get a lot of people now that come in and say that, want to get strong or they want to improve their mobility. At the start, I would say the majority of people come in and said they want to lose weight.
Okay.
Now there is a big flip.
So even in 6 years' time, you're seeing the outcome, the result that they want, that's shifted. The consumer preference has moved.
Yeah, which is great because I don't want to ever be a specialist in weight loss. It's we specialize in functionality, transferable exercises, making your life easier. One thing we used to say in the army, we used to say you train hard, you fight easy. And I say to people, you come to the gym, you train hard, transferable exercises. One we got, you're picking up a kettlebell from a step. It's like call it a suitcase lift. It's like picking up your luggage when you go to Greek islands which they all do. Damn you, they're all over there now.
Yeah, quiet period for you right now.
Yeah, it is. So it's a lot easier for us to sell our service because that's what we specialize in is that kind of component to it. And it's a lot easier to train someone for functionality, for strength, for mobility, for even improving your your VO2 and stuff like that than it is training for weight loss because a lot of that, as you know, weight loss starts in the kitchen. So we can't be at home with them and make sure they're eating the right thing or, not eating, poor food selections. So we're in the gym, we can make them strong and functional. We know we can do that. That's what we do.
Awesome. I love that. And I love that shift that's taking place. I want to talk about the marketing and the selling a little bit. So how do you market to attract new members? Does it differ, do you think, much from, say, a gym that's trying to cater and tailor for everybody?
Yeah, it is. Like we've just discussed now, we're a lot of our wording in the marketing is around, the strength components and, your mobility and stuff like that. We use a lot of member stories, a lot of testimonials.
A lot of social proof.
Social proof because, as you know, there's like I said, there's the challenges from the demographic that we target. However, there's plenty of good things. And one of the good things, if we ask people to write Google reviews, they write Google reviews.
They write essays.
Yeah. But the thing is that some of the things that they tell their story, which is great because we get so many people that a lot of our marketing is done for us, whether it's through referrals or through the social proof side of things. People get on there and so many people, when they do come in, they say, we've seen your website or your Facebook ad or whatever it was, or our friend trains here. So I jumped online and read through your Google reviews and they're very descriptive.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so they're doing a lot of research.
Yeah.
Social proof is paramount. You said referrals. Is that referrals from members? Is it referrals from allied health practitioners? And how does that just happen organically or do you have systems in place to generate more referrals?
So every now and then we do a bit of a push. We say we get a free class or free coffee for a Google review. Quite often it just happens. They just do it, which is great. Or if we do 3 monthly fitness assessments on people, the offer's there to do that anyway. It's quite a which is a comprehensive fitness assessment we do, and we see some significant improvements in balance and strength and heart rate recoveries and stuff like that. So once we've done that, people can see, hey, look at the improvements you've made in the last 3 months, and they start to glow because they should do because they've put in the hard yards. And then we say, hey, any chance you could give us a Google review? So, and it's the prime time to do that. But and like I said, they want to see the business grow and succeed because if the business is going to stay there, they're going to keep training there. So it's in their best interest that, we succeed as a business too. So
do you do anything different from a sales perspective? You mentioned before a lot of businesses sell over the phone. You're selling on the floor. So what's the sales process generally look like? Is it invite them in for a trial and then after they've done their 5 classes, it's talk to them about the membership options then?
I'd say the vast majority of our people, to be 70 to 80%, have come through on a paid trial.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe probably wouldn't be quite that many, because it'd be probably maybe 30% that would be referrals. There's very few people that have come in straight away and just signed up for, paid the induction fee and then straight into a membership. I actually kind of don't even want people to do that. I would prefer people to come in and say, come in, do a trial. We can give you a couple of free classes. And then hopefully our product and our service sells itself. I've never wanted to be pushing sales. It probably did right at the start, because I was, very green. I thought that was just what was done. I'd probably been sold to myself over the years. Whereas now it's kind of, some will stay, some won't. So what? It's if you want what we do, that's fine. We'll if we've got room for you, because there's plenty of classes that are maxed out now. But if we've got room for you and so forth, we're happy to take you. But I never ever want to do a pushy sales. I never want my staff to do pushy sales, because if you do that and then someone signs up for something that they don't want to be there, in the next kind of few weeks to a month, then it's a bit of a process to get them out of there. And we've wasted time, effort, energy, and time that we could have spent with other members, or time we could have spent acquiring new members. So the sales process is very different to a lot of other locations, where it's, like I said, I'm hoping to sell our service sells itself, and they actually come to us and say, hey, I've just finished my trial. Okay, cool. What do you want to do? Talk to me about membership packages and so forth.
And that probably feeds well into the longevity, the retention side that you were saying before, because they haven't been coerced or forced or hard sold. This is something that they have chosen because of the experience itself.
Yeah.
I want to talk about partnerships. Do you partner with medical doctors, retirement homes, collaborate with different businesses that also serve the same audience?
Yeah. We've spoken to quite a few allied health professionals in the area, and we do get referrals from them. It's usually when our members have gone to their podiatrist or their physio or their OT or their chiro or whatever, and told them that they're training with us, and that allied health is, okay, cool, I'll let other people know about them. Hasn't really been, would just say, a business-to-business relationship as such. We've spoken to a few GPs in the past. Limited success.
Okay.
Joint venture wise, our location in Brisbane is a joint venture with a nursing home group up there. We have our programs within one of their room, their community halls up there. We train a few of their people that are in the actual nursing home, mostly training their people within their community. They have plenty of people that still live at home. So that's the joint venture. It's always challenging when you don't make all the decisions yourself. But it's very different. They're a slow moving machine, whereas we're a small business. We're agile. We're driven. We need to make money. We need to kind of get members through the door. Whereas working with the JV, who's a big organisation, they can go the slowly approach. Whereas that's not me.
Yeah, so big considerations when you're doing these joint ventures.
Yeah.
I want to ask about your shift, because you were a coach. You were day-to-day in the business. When you joined our program, you were very much the technician, but you were also the business owner. Like a lot of fitness business owners, you were wearing a lot of hats. Now you got multiple locations. How have you had to evolve from being a coach to a multi-facility owner?
Have fantastic staffing is the main thing. Staff that are reliable, staff selection. I don't always get that right, but you get it right most of the time. Yeah, it's and training them up accordingly as well to what they need to do, which is extremely important. But and I've stepped in a bit lately just while staff are away. And I think it's really important to do that as a business owner, to step in every now and then. And
you see things that you otherwise wouldn't see.
Whereas staff just may not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not probably in their best interest. They just want to get in there and, do their job and kind of get out of there. But we need to know absolutely everything about, everything, all the business operations. So we might go in there and see something that's out of place, or hang on, this is a better way we could do this check-in procedure, whatever it may be. Even say around the scheduling of all the music and stuff like that. Whereas staff used to have to select the music for a different class that was coming up. Now I've scheduled all that in. So systemization, I've come from a background, whether it's working as an emergency nurse or on the oil rigs for 8 years as a medic in the military, and everything's, system proceduralized. So I have a lot of those things now that they've taken a lot of time. Like even I've developed a staff onboarding booklet, which is, I think it's 60 to 70 pages of everything. This is how to set up a class. This is how we critique. This is videos on how to demonstrate the class and conduct a warm up, and how to conduct a fitness assessment, a movement assessment. So that's all there. It took a lot of time to do that. But at least then, if someone asks me about something, whether it's one of the trainers or the managers, and say, here's the video for that, go and refresh yourself, go and watch that again. That makes it, a lot easier to kind of have those multiple locations without having to kind of be there on the ground the whole time. Procedures is really, really important.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to pull out of that. So the first, your point, I would recommend to any business owner, obviously you want to remove yourself from the day-to-day as much as possible. But there is great value in stepping in from time to time. I used to train long time ago, almost 2 decades ago. I used to train the CEO that had the Suzanne fashion stores. They're no longer around, but they had a whole group. They were a fashion group. And I'd be like, what are you up to today? And he's like, I'm going into this store and I'm just going to be there all day. And I'm like, why are you in a store all day? And he's like, that's where you get your best feedback.
Yeah.
That's where you see your biggest insights. And so there's tremendous value in doing so. The other things that you mentioned, really good systems, right? So, what did you say? 60, 70 pages, videos, like everything on how to run the business is in a operations manual, essentially. So you can step away and that should run the business itself. Now, you talked about staff, and I'm just going to ask you a little bit more on this because you said terrific staff. There's probably people listening, watching, going, well, how do you get terrific staff? Like staff are hard work for me. How do you find them? How do you get these unicorns? What have you learned about, two-part question, what have you learned about recruitment? What have you learned about leadership in terms of having this team that allows you to scale and grow?
Yeah. I think as a business owner, you're never going to get recruitment 100%, perfect.
Yeah, we were just talking off camera. Like you still got your challenges.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's like a lot of things. If you get it right 80% of the time, you're doing well. So several of our staff have come through, by way of advertising online through the job advert websites. A lot have come through referrals. I used to sit down and with either trainers or managers and, do a face-to-face interview. Now I get them into a class or a couple of classes and kind of throw them in there. I want to see them, how they're going to deal with my members, how they're going to deal with fellow staff, how they're going to deal with challenges. I suppose as an owner, I try to be quite flexible for them and be there to help support and mentor them. I don't want to be a business owner that goes, right, you got the job now, I'm out of here kind of thing, going surfing. That'd be nice.
Sounds good.
So I do give them, look, even at the meetings, the way I believe I do well in the meetings is I always ask for because they're on the ground, their boots are on the ground much more than mine are. So I want to get feedback from them and value their opinions. And, every now and then I'll go in there while they're doing classes or where the manager's doing something in particular, and I kind of, sit through that with them. And try to kind of, provide feedback and how we can improve that. And I always want, with my managers, for example, I've always allowed them to choose their own roster. And we can kind of plug the gaps with casual staff around that, because I'm a big believer in work-life balance. I mean, I love work-life balance. I work my butt off, but then I also, have a lot of fun too. So I want my managers to be able to do the same thing instead of me going up there and going, right, if you want this job, this is a privilege for you. You're going to work these hours. I'm kind of like, I'm a big believer in the employer-employee relationship is, mutually beneficial. You've come along with a certain skill set or a certain mindset that I want. So I'm going to kind of, make your job created in a way that you're really going to enjoy it and hopefully be there for the long term as well. So, and I also, when you said about recruiting, I believe we can teach skills. We can't teach personality or mindset. If I got someone that comes through the door, a perfect example, shout out to Jasmine. She's my manager at Hurstville. She came through as a student about 3 years ago, I think it was. She was doing her bachelor of sports management. She did her 80 hours or whatever, because we've had a lot of students now, but I think they're all different. Sometimes they're 80 hours or 60 hours or 140. I think she did her 80 hours and then after that wanted to do some PTing. She wasn't at the level. So I employed her but I've seen the keenness with her, which I love, and she's extremely diligent worker. I then allowed her to stay on as an admin. Didn't really need an admin because it was the time I had a manager, but I could see the potential with her. Yeah. So she did 3 or 4 hours a week of admin. Then she started doing a little bit of classes, mostly shadowing still, because I wasn't confident in her ability to run a class. And then she over a period of time, she become, even better. And I remember she never told me directly, but this is when I developed my staff booklet. In that, I have my staff goals. I want to know what your 3-month, 6-month, 12-month, 3-year goals are. You write them all down. And Jazzy gave that to me and she said, I want to be a gym manager one day. She'd never have said that to me face to face. And I'm like, this is great. So then I kind of, started showing her a few more of the things in behind the scene, and pretty soon she was showing me things behind the scenes. She's very, very tech savvy, and she's been the manager now at Hurstville for I think 2, maybe 3 years now, and she's a gun. Like with her classes, with her, just even her initiative. She's. But like I said, when I hired her right initially, it wasn't. I didn't hire her on skill set. I hired her on her. She was keen and willing to learn, so I was willing to take her on.
I think there's so many great lessons, and I just want to pull those out. I love the trial class, throwing them in classes, because interviews are a terrible recruitment technique.
Yeah,
you can present this perfect facade and you can say what they want to hear. But when you actually throw them in a class, you see them more how they naturally operate. How do they follow instructions? How do they interact with the members? How do they interact with the other staff? So love the practical value in that. Love that you look at your team members and it's how can we make this mutually beneficial? How can this be a partnership where not only do you have a great career here, but you also have a great life outside of here? Yeah. Here's some autonomy and flexibility on working together to do so. Absolutely agree with you in terms of you can teach the skills. There's nothing really that radical around we do that cannot be taught over a period of time. Jasmine's the ultimate example of that. You cannot teach attitude. You cannot teach growth-mindedness. You cannot teach values. And then I love actually getting really clear on, hey, where do you want to go? What are your career goals? And how can we work together in making those happen?
Yeah.
Awesome lessons. I want to talk about the future of Active and Ageless. So what do you have planned? You've just opened Janali, so congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done, mate. It seems like every time I speak to you and you're opening a new location. What's the future hold?
Look, I love what I do. I do see a demand for, what we do in multiple locations. In Sydney, international, so I actually meant to say interstate, but maybe international. There's a few other projects that I'm working on at the moment. I've developed a nutrition bar for older adults that's going to be released pretty soon. It's been in the process for 2.5 years. But for Active and Ageless, there will be other locations opened in Sydney at some stage in the next couple of years. want to get better at what I do as a leader, as a manager. I want our business to improve, our offerings for what we give our members. I want our staff to get better at what they do and the way that they either manage gyms or they train classes. And I do. I mean, as you know, the space, healthy aging, it's not going anywhere.
It's just getting bigger and better. It really is.
Yeah. And it's a fun space. I mean, I think years ago, like, I hate saying, but I think the previous generation just grew old gracefully. And now they're like 70, 80 years of age. We've got one of our, I think she's, there's plenty of things that I don't like saying. This is one. I think she's our oldest member. I think she just turned 80 or she's 80. Anyway, she's in her early 80s. She just went to South Africa, to Italy. Like, she's traveling around the world. And, you know, we a lot of that, like I said to you before, we did the suitcase lift and a few other things, those transferable type exercises. And, you know, I'd like to think that we're allowing these people to do that instead of the last 10, 20, 30 years of a person's life just kind of existing, languishing. Now this demographic, they're go-getters. You know, they're involved in their community. They're doing things that the previous generation just kind of didn't do as much. And I always say to people, like, I don't want you to sit in the backyard with your grandchild and watch them play in the sandpit. I want you to get in there and play with them, because, you know, the bond you're going to create is so much more than, you know, being an observer in in those people's lives. But I will expand. Just
I can hear how passionate you are about it as well. Like, you want to make that more accessible and available to more people. And one of the things I wanted to ask you is, when you're choosing these locations, because there's plans on the horizon to obviously open more in Sydney specifically, but maybe interstate, maybe even overseas. What are you looking at when you go, all right, we're going to open here? What are the considerations you have for that future expansion?
So you want me to give away all my trade secrets?
Absolutely.
So I've developed this, I've called it the Active and Ageless location matrix, where I go into the nitty gritty of ABS, Australian Bureau of Statistics data, demographics, weekly median family income, quite a few other metrics in there that I've given like a grading system. Kind of starts off on an area, then I go to a particular area, and how serviced is it by roads and car parks, and is it located on a peninsula and challenging to get to with, you know, afternoon traffic or morning traffic and stuff like that. Then down to the location itself, you know, is it, you know, visible floor space and quite a few other things. So I've refined that over the years, and that helps me identify a suitable location.
So there's a lot of due diligence that goes into it. Yeah. I remember even, and this is going way back, and so no doubt you've developed it, but the first time I believe we met formally was we were doing a session in a cafe in Bronte, and you pulled out this demographic data on about 20 different locations, and it was so thorough. It was probably the most thorough research that I'd ever seen. It was immense. And it sounds like that's even been taken to another level.
Yeah, well, most of that was actually done by, I had a lot of input into it because I used to do house renovations and flipping and stuff like that. So I used a lot of that kind of training into helping develop that particular research document. But now what I have now, I have done it myself. So it's developed over the years, and I've set it up in a way that my PA overseas have all the alerts that go to her from, you know, real commercial or commercial real estate websites, and she gets them. She populates the matrix and gives it a bit of a score on in different areas of that particular location, and that gives it a score in terms of suitability of potential gym location. So it's kind of, I think it's a good matrix. It's a good kind of, I've actually seen one of the other, I won't say who it is, it's one of the other biggest fitness franchises in Australia. I've seen what they use in the location matrix, and Sorry, but mine's better. It is comprehensively better. So I've put a lot of work into it, and hopefully it's come up trumps, especially with our latest location, Janelle. I've never seen interest like this before. It's insane. The amount of marketing campaigns I've set up over the years myself, this has trumped all in by a long way.
Sounds like it served you very well. Mate, I've absolutely loved this conversation, unpacking your story, your journey, your insights, your lessons. One of the questions I love to ask all of our guests is, what is the best piece of advice you have ever been given or received?
Might be a little bit generic, but surround yourself with people like you that are, smarter in different fields than you, because you can't know everything. It's and I've always been a type of person that I ask a lot of questions. But, as Tony Robbins once says, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. So if you're hanging out with the right people, you get to ask good questions and get to learn a lot.
Yeah, it's one of the qualities that I've always admired about you is you're always the student. Yeah. Despite this, immense success you've had, you're always humble and asking for advice and insights and always learning.
Yeah, always learning.
Yeah. Heath Jones, thank you very much for joining us on Profit Made Simple. I've absolutely loved this conversation. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being so generous with your time. Thank you for giving away all your secrets. And congratulations on the success that you've had so far. And I'm looking forward to hearing and seeing much more of it.
Awesome. Thank you, mate.
Thank you guys for listening and watching to today's episode. If you got value, you know what to do. Give us a like, subscribe, or share it with somebody else that may benefit from the incredible wisdom that's been shared today. Thank you very much.